I'm Mike Massé. I'm a musician. I perform epic acoustic classic rock, and you're listening to Talking Blues.
So, Mike, I get the feeling you didn't start off thinking that you wanted to make music as your career. I know you went to school for music.
Okay, so that's an interesting way to frame that question, and that's why I might take issue with it a little bit. I think I just wasn't fortunate enough to make music a career by first go round. Basically, I just didn't have an avenue to pursue it. I studied music in college undergrad. I was a music major, and I studied sound recording, and
Right.
and I just couldn't find a paying gig out of school. I mean, I there was a couple of studios because the audio the audio was dialed in, but
They
yeah,
they really do. But
yeah,
when you said you wanted to go into music, I mean, were you thinking as an
yeah,
artist or were you thinking more on the recording
right,
side? Because
right,
you went to school for recording.
yeah. I wouldn't have I would not have resisted a career as an artist, but I wasn't necessarily expecting one either. I kind of thought I would just maybe kind of, do some stuff along the way on the side, maybe get opportunities to perform as a recording engineer. You meet musicians and, get connections that way. So I didn't really necessarily narrow myself to any one thing. I was in a couple of original bands um, that, and so I had some experience with songwriting, but it wasn't necessarily like the thing that I love to do, but all along the way, in college, I auditioned at my first restaurant and, I had a little repertoire and I printed out a song list of songs I knew and I passed them out to the tables and people circled them and brought them up and with a tip. And that was kind of how it all started. And that kind of gave me the confidence in like, okay, people enjoy hearing my versions of these songs, and, cover musicians are kind of a dime a dozen. So like hearing me talk about this to your audience with if they've never heard me, they're probably not necessarily in a huge hurry to go check me out because they're like, oh, it's just a cover musician. But like it's weird to talk about myself in an objective way, but I think there is something that sets me apart, and I think it's just it's part my arranging and it's part my performing. It's just a kind of the combination of the two hits a sweet spot for a lot of people, and they just really enjoy my performances. Sometimes, and you'll see it's not uncommon to see comments on my YouTube channel where they say I like it better than the original, which I find really ironic because I'm just trying to, in my mind, I'm just trying to recreate the original acoustically. I'm not really trying to change it dramatically. My arrangements are pretty faithful, and I kind of take pride in that because like I want people to like if they like the original, I want them to like my version too. I want that audience like built in. Like I don't want to turn anybody off that like the original. Like, oh, I don't like the way he did it. And so I try to stick be faithful to it, but also I can't help bring a little bit of my own vibe, my own juice to it. Just kind of my own filter.
Well, I think when one has a voice like yours, I think that I think you bring originality with your voice, and I'm not trying to minimize your guitar playing,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
but
yeah.
but but your voice is, like everybody else. I saw a video and thought, oh my God, this guy can sing. Like it's immediate and
Hmm.
and not simple songs, and we're talking some pretty difficult songs, and so
Yeah, yeah,
because you're coming to Toronto in September,
yeah.
your ad came on my Facebook feed,
Oh,
and I
nice.
had never heard of you, and I said, "Who is
Oh,
this
great.
guy?" And then I
Well,
looked at the video, then I saw a few other videos, and it was just like, "Oh my God, this guy can really
yeah,
sing." Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so tell me about how music came into your life and what you might have pursued back then when you might have dreamt about having a career in music while you were growing up.
Yeah, well, we had a piano in the house, and my sisters, I had three older sisters and a younger brother, growing up in the east coast of Florida, um, and a place called Satellite Beach. And we had a piano in the house, and I would kind of tinker with it. I was younger than them, but I would start just kind of figuring stuff out by ear. And so my mom was like, well, he's got something these other kids don't necessarily have. Like I just had an ear for it. And the kids just kind of took piano because my mom thought it'd be good if they did, but they didn't never none of them stuck with it. Like there's not a piano player in my family, besides me. um, and uh, and so yeah, and so I kind of that was my first instrument, and I'd pick out like Journey songs or Yes or Styx, like a lot of the piano friendly music at the time, and just do what I could with it. And eventually, when I was in high school, I got my first synthesizer, and I joined a band when I moved to. I was in Boulder, Colorado by that point, and yeah, and so I eventually got an acoustic guitar. I got an Ovation, and that's kind of cool for me now because a lot of people their first guitar was an Ovation, especially if it was an acoustic, obviously. That's kind of what they were known for. They were kind of the ones who kind of pioneered the acoustic electric guitar, and an acoustic guitar that had a pickup that still sounded like an acoustic guitar on stage. And that was kind of their thing. You didn't have to mic it. And so I got one of those and loved it and used it to teach myself a bunch of Beatles songs. I had a couple Beatles songbooks, and this was before YouTube, so I couldn't watch anybody play it. So I was at the mercy of like, well, I know where this note is, but like that's kind of tricky on a guitar because you can play the same note in a few different spots. So you could quickly, like get in too deep, like what is happening, and then not realize, oh, they used a capo or something like that, where if you were visually watching somebody play it, you'd be like, oh, okay, they're using a capo. That's
Right.
clearly how you play that song. So like little things like that, people have no appreciation for how much easier it is, to learn like an instrument today, just because you have that free resource of just endless examples of people who have mastered it or teaching you or whatever. Anyway, so I taught myself, like Yesterday and Blackbird and Rocky Raccoon, like trying to, learn how to finger pick, and then it just kind of grew from there. And then like that's kind of how my repertoire started. And then, by the time I got to college, I had a handful of songs where I was like, I have enough to kind of go out and do this. And yeah, it was fun.
I know you were in the choir, but
Hmm.
when did singing become a thing for you?
Not until high school, really. I didn't sing at all. Like at home, I would just kind of sing around the house and had probably a decent sense of pitch, but no training. No, I was not like a natural singer. Like you people hear people that are just like, yeah, he was great from early age. I was not. Okay, so maybe that gives some people hope maybe there's a singer inside you that just needs a little training. Because I just didn't have good technique. I didn't have the range. I kind of, I knew what it was. I wanted it to sound like in my head, but I just didn't know how to do it. And then when I went to college, it just kind of unlocked some things for me. Like I'm like, oh, okay. I figured out support and I figured out placement and vowel modulation and all the things that go into making the vocal sound. Just like I kind of got it dialed in with a little bit of training. It was, I had a few different teachers, and even in actually right out of college, right out of high school, that summer I took some voice lessons and such. So I was kind of I'm like, I think I could do this if I get a little help. But like, literally, like my first gig was our ninth grade. Like two of my dear friends, Scott Slusher and Ken Benson, who still play with me today. Like they just went to London with me and New York. But we were in a band in ninth grade, and our first gig ever was our ninth grade going away party. And we got the gig, but we got the gig, and we didn't have a singer. I was the keyboard player. We had a guitar player, bass player, drummer. We didn't have a singer. We're like, I guess we all need to just kind of take, we just divvied them up. Like. And I got all the hard songs. I got like Tom Sawyer. I got New Year's Day by U2. I'm just like, okay, let's discover our falsetto quickly, and so that's basically what happened. But and they're singing stuff like Rock Around the Clock. I'm like, yeah, that's super hard. Anyway, I got all the hard stuff. So but that kind of threw me into the spotlight. I'm like, I had to figure it
And when you did figure it out, I mean, was there a point where it became very comfortable to you? Like, I don't know how
out.
you think of your singing voice.
I mean, comfortable. That's kind of an interesting term because my immediate like analogy is like exercise because it's a physical exertion, right? I mean, there is some kind of like joy involved in the emotional expression of it that you can kind of also lean into, and that takes your mind off of the fact that you're working physically. But it's just like, yeah, like if I did a gig that was all kind of comfortable songs to sing and like all within my wheelhouse and comfort zone, I'd be like, yeah, I'd enjoy that. Like, give me an audience of 2 billion. I don't care. Like, let's go, right? But then like and that's like the equivalent of a light jog, right? Just kind of okay, I could do this all day, and then but then you start throwing some harder songs on the set list, and it becomes a little bit more dicey because I'm like, all right, I need to be having a good voice that day, and I also need to feel like I can do this and I need to concentrate completely. And so like, yeah, then it becomes a little bit like more touch and go. But that's one of the things that I do that people, I don't know if it's a great idea or not, but I always challenge myself. I've been doing live streams like a lot of other musicians have been doing, and I'm still constantly learning new songs all the time, and I was not doing that before the streaming became a necessity. And my repertoire before was probably, I don't know, maybe 500 songs or something. Maybe I don't know. I don't. I wish I knew because I can go back. But I have archives of my digital songbook. I can go and see how big it was. Like there was a way I can find out how many songs I used to know. But now it's well over 800 that I performed on my live stream. 800 different songs, and it's still the list is still growing. And so, because of that, I never really have time to like. I don't ever dial anything in like perfectly. It's like it's just kind of a process. Like the more times I perform it, it just gets a little bit better every time, as long as I keep it, keep it in the repertoire. So like going out and doing these shows on the road that I've had a chance to do, like I'm coming to Toronto. It's been nice because there's been some songs I've learned recently. I'm like, all right, I'm putting some miles on this song. It's really becoming a thing, like I'm getting more comfortable with it. And so, that's kind of fun too. But like when I stream, like I'm not streaming as often as I used to, so I can't like I don't play any song often enough on the stream where it really just gets, I have to like practice it off the air because otherwise it's just not going to get there because I'm just not streaming enough. But yeah,
I'm curious as to how you got to where you are because,
yeah.
and I didn't mean to insult you in by any ways by saying you didn't really pursue music the way,
No, no. I just
so
no. I mean, it was all luck at the time, and it's still luck today.
yeah, so I'm not sure if it's luck because at this point, you have a fan base, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's not the fan base built the old-fashioned way, which
I
I
didn't get
find
any help.
fascinating.
Yeah, I didn't get any help. Like
Yeah,
any industry help at all. Like right, like this was all homegrown, like completely.
right.
Which is so cool that you can do that these days. And that's one of the beautiful things about the internet. And also one of the beautiful things about computer processing power becoming cheap enough that you could literally, you could record yourself and put it all out there and on a pretty decent, pretty low budget to start with, as long as you kind of know what you're doing or have somebody helping you that knows what they're doing. Like if you have a good engineer, that can make things sound good, even if you're not working with a lot, you can do a lot with software these days. But anyway, I'm digressing. But yeah, but it's all within people's grasp, and it wasn't when I first got out of college. It just really wasn't, not in the same way. So I kind of like needed all of this to kind of evolve to the point where I could take advantage of it. And meanwhile, I was evolving because I was figuring out digital recording, and I was building a repertoire, and I was getting better, and I was building relationships with musicians that became my collaborators on my YouTube channel, and a lot of those people were people that I played with in college, which is great.
But this wasn't like I would presume you had goals of playing and playing locally
Hmm.
and playing your music and doing gigs on a regular basis.
Right,
But I don't know
and
if
that's
you had a
all I was doing.
goal of right. I don't know if that was all that you were doing because that was your goal. I mean,
Yeah,
or you
yeah,
didn't have goals, right?
yeah.
And you were quite happy doing that. You were
I was a public
you,
defender for 13 years.
right,
Yeah, and we haven't really mentioned that part yet. But I was a working attorney, like in Salt Lake
right.
City for 13 years, doing like criminal defense for people who couldn't afford an attorney. I was a court appointed. Yeah, and these were like the pizza place gigs that it's called the Pie Pizzeria in Salt Lake City. Those were just like a monthly standing gig that I had since college that I just held on to basically and maintained because mostly because I didn't want to lose it. I'd learned a lot of music, I'd learned a lot of songs. I'm like, if I don't have a gig like once a month, I'm just gonna forget all this stuff. And so I'm like, that was really the purpose of it. And then I just I'd record it and sometimes I'd have guests sit in with me and yeah, just kind of grew out of that. And that's why it's got like such a low key vibe. Like when you watch those early uh, pizza place videos, like it wasn't even my day job. It was just like I'm just doing this for fun. Like we're just here and we're
Right.
we're sharing this with the world because we think that's where the audience is. Because clearly it's not always in the room. Some of those performances have like little to no audience response because there was little to no audience. It's just kind of the
But was
nature of
there
it.
even a goal to have a big audience? Like, was it just you had a full-time job, you were making money, you were raising your family and kids, and you were happy doing that, and you were happy making music, but it wasn't like maybe I'm wrong, but it didn't seem like you had this bigger goal that one day
Yeah.
I'm gonna dominate the world.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I wasn't really doing the work to do that either, right? I mean, I wasn't
Right.
like, I mean, just to be real about it, like, I had the dad bod, and I didn't care. It's like I wasn't like I'm gonna look my best, and I'm gonna make my pitch, and I'm gonna be a hit in Nashville or whatever. It's like I wasn't like, yeah, you're right. It wasn't kind of like, but in the back of my mind, it was like when I started putting stuff on YouTube, it led to opportunities that I would not have had otherwise. And I knew that. I'm like, there's going to be people out there that are going to dig this. It doesn't mean it's going to like take over my world and become my focus, but it's like I might get some gigs out of this because I had local gigs that would come from people seeing me. Like I would do weddings because people would stumble into the pizza place and go, this guy's really good. He should play our wedding, or whatever, or friends that knew how good I was and that would hire me for their weddings or whatever. And so I'm like, I thought, and it did, it literally did. I played in before I was a professional musician, I played in Germany, for like some corporate thing randomly, and I played for a billionaire who's a Hollywood producer, just for my YouTube channel. And so like I got these random opportunities. There's a lot of others that came from it, like including performing with members of Boston. Like I got that gig out of it, and that was before I was a
Right.
professional musician. So like basically everything that happened in Utah, it's like all of that stuff happened just because of YouTube, which was awesome. And then like I moved to Colorado, and that was when I decided I'm like I'm just going to do this full time, and it's been great, and it's
Okay.
been it's been work. Yeah,
Before we get there, so your
yeah,
sister says you should put some stuff on YouTube.
yeah, yeah,
Before this, you're playing in bars and you're actually recording some of your own stuff
hmm
and selling it in
hmm
bars or selling it, giving
yeah,
it to friends.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so your sister says you should do some YouTube videos, and you start doing that. Um, Initially, what happens when you put out those videos?
The first thing I filmed was I don't know, it was kind of random, but I did Day in the Life by the Beatles. That's not random, that's just great. But the other one that was kind of random was I did Warning Sign by Coldplay, that was kind of random. And then I did some live videos, my first batch of live videos. And and this was before my channel was even called, now it's called MikeMassé.com, spelled out Dotcom. It was like something random, like it was Xander Harris or something. Like it was Xander Harris is a was my gaming name, and it's a reference to a Buffy the Vampire Slayer character, like one of my favorite characters
Right.
from Buffy. Anyway, so it was like this was on Xander Harris's channel at this point, and I post a few like videos like from the pie, and the very first live one I posted was Nothing Compares to You, acoustic version of that, and it was me and my friend Scott Slusher. He was singing backing vocals, and he was playing drums, and I'm playing guitar, singing the lead. And, we did the Sinead O'Connor rendition, but it's written by Prince, right?
Hmm.
And within a few days, that video gets muted, and I'm like, oh man, is this gonna happen every time? Like the first thing I post gets muted. I'm
Right.
like, damn, I'm like, is this shoot? I was just really bummed about that. I'm just like, oh man, and I was also worried. I'm like, well, okay, I'm like, I'm gonna start over. I don't want that on my track record of my channel. I'm like, I'm gonna start over. I'm gonna do this right, and I'm not gonna upload that song. That's for sure. I'm gonna stay away from that song.
Do you know
And so
why
I
it was
started it
muted?
over because it was written by Prince, and it was Prince's publisher's request that any covers of Prince songs be muted on
Okay.
YouTube. And it wasn't a widespread issue. There's only a few artists to this day who have those kinds of policies. The other big one is the Eagles and Don Henley. You can't, and at least in the United States, you can't post covers. I have a cover of Boys of Summer that I don't know if you can see it in Canada, but you can't see it in the United States, but you can see it in I think the rest of the world. But anyway, so like that's an example. So yeah, I learned that the hard way. So anyway, so I started my channel over, and I reposted those live videos, and I didn't post that Prince song. And then years later, it's kind of funny. I still had that video, and I'm like, I'm gonna throw that video back up just to see what happens, see if it gets muted or whatever. Didn't get muted, and then like a few months later, Prince passes away, and I get a call or an email from uh, an ad agency in New York who's putting together an ad for Google Pixel, the first one, the phone, that's going to air during the Grammys, and it's going to air right after they do a big tribute to Prince, and they want to know if I will sing "Nothing Compares to You" as part of this commercial. It's like a montage of a bunch of different people performing the song, and so the first video that I ever put up gets blocked, and then later, because I put it back up, I end up in a commercial that airs during the Grammys for Google Pixel, singing that same song. It's
Wow.
like that, like that, just the circuit. Yeah, coming full circle on that just cracked me up. I thought that was
Okay,
hilarious.
so
I'm like the irony of that.
also having the legal background that you have, I know it's
Hmm.
public defense. It's different than
Yeah,
than
yeah.
copyright
The
laws,
entertainment guy.
but you know
Right.
law
Yeah.
to a certain degree. So all of a sudden, when you start this and you get hit by this block by Princess
Yeah. Yeah.
Publishing,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess did you think, oh my God, can I actually do what I want to do because of this?
Well, and there was another guy, a guy who's I can't remember his real name. He's the nicest guy. Anyway, he was a guy that was doing what I was doing. He was just kind of doing it. He wasn't doing it like he was just doing kind of like home video, like recording, playing guitar and singing. But he was really good. His channel was Fargan Bastage, which was a reference to Johnny Dangerously, which was a movie that had Michael Keaton in it,
Yeah, yeah.
and Joe Piscopo would famously like mispronounce swear words, and so that was what he took at Fargan Bastage was. Anyway, but he was really good, and he did this lovely, like, acoustic cover of "Crystal Ball" by Styx, played it with the 12 string, and finger picked it, and it was just like, oh, so good. And, his channel got, like, taken down, like, down the whole channel was just gone. I'm like, "Oh, crap." And I'm like, and this is right about the time I started off. I'm just like, I kind of felt like I was like navigating a minefield. I'm just like, any false step here, and my channel could go at any time. But then eventually, I kind of felt like my channel had enough, like, I don't know, just attention and I don't know, views or whatever, that I felt like, okay, I'm safe now. Like I'm a YouTube property in a way. Like they're gonna have my back. They're not gonna just do anything crazy and just take down my whole channel at this point. And I still don't have any copyright strikes. I've had videos get blocked, and some of them have been heartbreaking because you don't know until it happens that it's going to happen. Like, you upload it and then suddenly nobody gets to see it. I did a video, a cover of "If I Needed Someone," which is a Beatles song, written by George Harrison. It's on Rubber Soul, and it's a great song. And I did a version of it with the Mona Lisa twins, who are very talented twin sisters that are based in the Liverpool area. And we recorded that song together remotely, and then I showed up and I played in a couple shows in the UK, and they joined me for the show in Liverpool. And we filmed the video around Liverpool, like doing a Beatles song cover with these girls around. It was just so cool. It was magical. And then I upload it, and it gets blocked. And I'm just like, you're kidding me. That was just I was so bummed about that. It's on my Facebook page, but like anyone ever watches those. But yeah, it's out there. You can still see it. But it was just like, I was just like, that video was going to be so amazing and so fun for everyone. And it was going to get me a lot of new fans from their audience, a lot of new fans from my audience. And we still have a cover of Africa that's up on their channel that people like, and sometimes I get fans from their audience, but I don't have them on my channel, which is kind of a bummer for them, I think.
It's an interesting thing because everything to do with the music industry, like there are no rules. There are no set rules.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
in the way
yeah.
that Prince's publishing company might say, take that down, you also have examples of other musicians who've kind of embraced what you do and
Oh,
who've
exactly.
promoted and who've
Yeah,
also reached out to you and said, I like what you do. I love
yeah,
what you do, whatever. Like so you
yeah, yeah,
never know,
exactly.
right? At what
Yeah.
what point did you think when you started your YouTube channel? At what point did you think, hey, there is something here? There's something for me to do here, and I'm getting some traction.
Yeah, Africa was the first video that kind of went a little viral, and that was the first one that it became sort of the standout for people, and it became sort of my calling card, and it kind of still is. It's the second most viewed video, behind Leader of the Band, which has like maybe like 31 million or something like that views, 30 million, and and Africa has like 16 million. But all of the Leader of the Band's traffic is coming out of the Philippines. It's like I get over a million views a month on that video just from the Philippines. It's kind of weird, but that's the way it happens, and that's the power of the internet. And I've never been to the Philippines. I should probably go, but I haven't been. So,
So there's success with Africa. So does that change your life?
um, initially, not really, other than maybe it kind of led to a couple other opportunities and maybe a little bit more notoriety. But it wasn't until there was, like, Africa went kind of a little bit viral years later. Maybe it was 2013, I think. And then after that happened, I started getting a lot more attention. And it was just kind of like it just kind of took things to a new level. And that was when I decided, I'm like, I think I can do this for a living. I think I can sustain this and replace. But I wasn't trying to be rich and famous. I just wanted to replace my lawyer income and do this instead. And that's basically what I did. I'm just still kind of a middle class dude, but I get to be a musician, which is way more fun.
How difficult is that decision to say, okay, I'm making X number of dollars right now being a public
Yeah.
defender, and based on what I
Well.
can see, I can match
Yeah.
that or come close to it. Therefore, I can
Yeah.
concentrate on music. How difficult of a decision was that?
Well, I miss the 401k, and I miss the health insurance, but apart from that, it's fun. It's just fun to be kind of like have my world be so centered around music so much of the time. And with the world, the way it's been and the way it seems to be heading, it's nice to have that luxury. That's my privilege as a musician, is to just to be able to spend so much mental energy on music instead of worrying about other people's crimes like I used to, you know uh, or worse. Yeah. So it's great. It's been a blessing, and it's been fun to be able to also to produce more because I've just produced more as a full-time musician, and so that gives people more ways to find me. So it's broadened my fan base, and it's also given me more opportunities to perform and travel, and so that's also increased my fan base, and it's allowed me to see the world in a way that I wouldn't have seen it as a lawyer,
Okay,
who just maybe traveled after I retired or something.
so in the old school way, a band would or a musician would go out there and tour, get in a van and tour all over the place and go to
Yeah,
different places and play and hopefully build a fan base, go back every
yeah,
few months, every year and keep building. Well, that would be the
yeah,
idea.
right.
You're I don't know if you did that as well, but your way was basically put stuff on YouTube and then people come and see it and they obviously like it. And then you've built a fan base, which is, I presume, pretty loyal when you're talking 60 million or, 30 million views. And I think there are
Yeah,
other examples where things have happened to you that tell you that you have a very loyal fan base already.
Yeah, there's definitely a core loyal group, and we got to kind of know each other, which was fun doing live streams, because they're in the live chat, and even to the point where we did some private fan shows where just the core group would attend, and like a fan would sponsor it, like pay me a fee to just do a show that was just for the fans, and we've done some Zoom calls where I'm on with the fans, and they do Zoom calls without me, like before the show sometimes just as a group. They're
Right.
just like, and I mean, they don't even like assume I'm going to show up. They'll just arrange a Zoom call just to kind of chill before one of my live streams. So it's just kind of like, yeah, it's like the pre-show party, and so that's kind of awesome. And I think I have a lot of people that subscribe to me on YouTube that maybe haven't visited my channel in a while, like, and they just kind of come back to me every once in a while, and they're like, oh, let's see what Mike's doing. Or like, oh, he's the Africa guy, or whatever, like however they think of me. And so that's fine too, and I try to just get the word out about my shows the best way I can. My model is very different from what you described. I First of all, I'm kind of like, either I'm always on tour or I'm never on tour, depending on how you want to think of it, because it's like I go out on weekends, like usually like at least a couple of weekends every month, where I just go out, hit a city or two, and then come back. And then I'm home the rest of the time, and then I do some local gigs when I can, or and then I'll do private shows when I get, like I said, weddings, whether that be locally or I did a wedding in Tuscany, which was awesome. I did a wedding in Switzerland, which was awesome. I did a wedding in the countryside in the UK and in England, which was awesome. I did a
Wow.
fundraiser for a charity in Western Australia, which was awesome. So it's like, yeah, the private stuff is sometimes the most crazy, just like the most exotic and interesting.
And
I
this
love
all
it.
started from the YouTube. Like this is
Yeah,
people seeing you
exactly.
on YouTube and saying, I want to get that guy at my party.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
are there other ways? Like at what point did you decide I need an agent so I can now tour the southern states or go to Europe? How does that
Yeah,
work?
so I touched on the fact that my model is different. The other side of my model has been just literally like reaching out to venues that, um, most of the time, I mean, there are a few traditional venues where I just do like a door deal, like I just show up and we split the door, or a guarantee where they're like, this, if you want to come play for this much, we promise you we'll pay you this much. If you sell enough tickets, we'll pay you even extra. We'll split the extra. But those are two traditional models. I'm doing something most of the time, which is far different from either of those. And I'm literally renting out venues by the hour. And I'm selling tickets myself on Eventbrite, and I'm doing all the promotion. And I'm keeping all the proceeds. So it's like, I'm assuming all the risk. The venue, they get paid whether or not anybody comes in the door, basically. So that's been my model, like, and that's been my bread and butter for the past several years. And I usually, and if I do well enough, where I feel like, okay, this is something I can build on, I'll keep coming back, and it's always easier to come back to a venue than find a new one. So I end up like, you get a bit of a rut in that way as well, though, because you're always coming back to the same places. So what I did recently was, I literally posted to my fan base on Facebook, and I said, hey, if you if you are, a booking agent or a musician in a certain region, and you want to see me come to your town, and you want to help me book those shows and help me, then let me know. And then so I exchanged messages with several people on Facebook, Messenger, and I now have a little kind of, a little army of people that are all kind of looking in their neck of the woods for gigs for me. So I'm hopefully going to have some new places I can play. I really want to do that in Europe. I know that there's other cities where I could play, and it's nice to have a guarantee where you can get one when the venue's willing to promise you some money. But not everybody's willing to do that, especially if you're an unknown quantity. They've never heard of you and they haven't seen you on YouTube. And they're like, well, you've got a YouTube audience. How many of those people are around here? And so there is a little bit of a risk, that they have to take in that situation. And that's the risk that I've taken, in every venue that I've rented out. I've just hoped, and I've started off, in the bigger markets, just where there's more people, and just like, because I know I do have faithful fans and they will travel. And so as long as if I get close to enough of them, I'll be able to fill the room, even if they're not like exactly local.
Does it
So
surprise you because it's not your typical model? And I can understand that somebody could put up something on YouTube or on Twitter or whatever, and
yeah,
it catches fire. But I think it's more likely that it catches fire for that moment and everybody forgets you 15 minutes
right.
later. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you want to
Yeah,
sustain
and
it.
I don't know
Yeah, you want to
how.
sustain it.
I mean, people dream about that, and I hear enough musicians
Yeah,
talk about, well, we want to do something that's viral, but I don't know if that's.
yeah,
I don't know if you can. One can plan that, and two,
yeah,
I don't know how easy it is to sustain that. But you obviously
yeah.
have. At what point did you know that you could sustain it?
Well, it was, I had to take that first risk. Like, when I got that, I mentioned I played that wedding in the countryside of the UK. When I got that gig, I just rented a venue in London, and my bass player Jeff Hall was coming to the gig, to the wedding gig. So the two of us were gonna, and I'm just like, the place held 500 people, yeah, a little over 500, like 550 or something. And we're like, let's just do this. We'll do this show, and then the next day we'll do the wedding, and then we'll go home. Whatever. And uh, and so I took a chance. I contacted a few different venues, and I found one that was willing to rent it out to me on a Friday night or whatever it was. And we put on tickets on sale, and we sold it out, and it was amazing. And we had, because it was the first time I'd ever played in Europe, anywhere in Europe, we had people coming from Austria. I mean, people just,
Wow.
like, they all converged on London just to come see us, because that was their first and only chance they'd ever had. And since then, I've come back to the Netherlands several times. I did a little tour of Germany, and those are mostly the public places I played. I've got to expand, and I went to Liverpool, and I've played Dublin a couple times, which is awesome. But I want to expand. I want to do Paris and Belgium. And I'm not gonna lie, part of this is because I just want to see Europe, because I've never been to those places. But it's great if I can play someplace where I actually want to be, like, and want to visit. And so I try to do that as much as I can too. But I don't, I can't do it and go lose money. It has to make sense. But it's like, that's the goal.
What do you think it is about what you do that gives you that loyal fan base? That it's not just a flash in the pan little viral thing that lasted 15 minutes.
I think well, I obviously the music is a big draw for people, but I think also, I have a lot of fans who are fellow musicians, and I think they think of me as a somebody just commented yesterday on one of my ads for a gig, and they said that I'm the alpha of, like, cover musicians or something like that, or an alpha of cover musicians. Like, basically, they see me as kind of like a patron saint of cover musicians, where, and because I make accessible arrangements, because I'm not, maybe not accessible vocally for everybody, because I do have a pretty high voice and I do sing some songs that not everybody can cover. But in terms of guitar, I am um, I am a competent rhythm guitar player, and that's maybe selling myself a little bit short. I'm let's just say, to the extent that you could be an expert rhythm guitar player, I'm an expert rhythm guitar player. But having said that, the rhythm is a qualifier and a limiter. I'm using that term specifically because I'm not a lead guitar player. And if you're an excellent lead guitar player, chances are you're also an excellent rhythm guitar player. But it doesn't work the other way around. And so I leave the lead playing, and I leave the solos to the experts. But I can hold my own on a rhythm, and I can convert a song to a rhythm on guitar that makes sense, that maintains the feel and the groove and the vibe of the song. And I think that people just, I think they gravitate towards that as guitar players. They're like, oh, that's such a cool way to play that song. Or I'll arrange songs that were originally on piano, and I'll put them on guitar. And so they're like, I feel like I'm unlocking a song when I do that. I'm like, hey, look, guitar players, this song is yours too. Take it, run with it. And so, like, songs like "Come Sail Away" that were on guitar. I mean, on piano, like, I played it on guitar and did like a finger picking arrangement. Or, even in the early days, I did songs like "Tainted Love" by, the soft cell version of "Tainted Love" that was like all synth. And I played it on acoustic guitar, stuff like that. So I think that's kind of fun for people. Gives them new ideas to add to their own. And people tell me that all the time. It's one of my favorite comments I get from people is they'll walk up to me after one of my shows and be like, dude, I can't even tell you how many of your arrangements I've stolen." I'm just like, awesome, love it, great, glad to hear it. It's just like, this is fine
Well, I mean,
because it puts it out there. It's
and there's
great.
definitely talent in that. I was thinking about this today in preparation for my interview with you, is that there are definitely some artists out there who really didn't write or weren't known for writing original material, but who covered other
Hmm.
people's material and made it their own.
Oh
Like
yeah,
Joe Cocker or Jeff Healey, right?
yeah,
Those
yeah,
people who've,
dude. If I could have Michael Bolton's career, I'd take it in a heartbeat. You know what I mean? It's just like, no, I mean, like, yeah, or like Josh Groban or something like that. Yeah, people that are just great singers, but they're not known for like their
right.
own catalog of music. You're exactly right. Yeah, I'd love to be touring those venues. Yeah, give me any day. I'd take that any day.
So
Yeah,
are there original songs within you? And I don't know the details. I'm
yeah. I have a handful. I've never been a prolific writer, but I have a handful. And actually, some of them are on YouTube. There's a couple of them I've even done on my live streams from time to time. There's only really a couple, that, ironically, that lend themselves well to an acoustic arrangement. And I say that because like when you write a song, you want people to hear like the whole like vision of it in your mind, and you can always scale it down later. But like if you're writing a song, if it starts scaled down, then just like, yeah, I'm like, and there was also going to be harmonies and string section or whatever, like any ideas you had in your head, they're all lost, So I like to start on an original song. I like to start with a big thing, and then like if I can scale it down, great. But it's like I don't. It's not a prerequisite for a song. Not all songs are scalable down to acoustic, and so that I don't try. I know my limits.
But I mean, is that a goal of yours to say, it would be nice if I start doing more live gigs to put in a few more of my originals, or do you care?
I would feel like that would be an indulgence, and I don't assume people are coming for that, and that's one of the fun things about my concerts is you can walk into one of my concerts, just say, your best friend drags you, like, I want you to come hear this guy, and they don't know what to expect, and they could know every single song, and they could sing along with every word, and they could have an amazing time, and they'd be like, I didn't even know who you were 2 hours ago, and I think that's pretty cool.
Hmm.
But then like I make them sit through an original, and it's a different vibe, and it becomes about me. I like my shows to be more like a celebration of classic rock than just like a celebration of me. I try to just get lost behind the music. It's just like, I don't know. That's just kind of the way I do it.
Which is fine. Let me ask you this.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you do a YouTube song, or you put your song on YouTube and it gets 30 million views or whatever, do you get money for that? Or does that money go directly to the writer and the original?
I mean, the answer is it depends. It depends on the publisher, because some of them will shoot themselves in the foot and block it completely, so nobody ever sees it and nobody gets a dime,
Right.
including them. Dumb, Don Henley, dumb. Or or they'll just say, "Oh, what a great cover." They'll do what Dan Fogelberg's estate did, or his publisher did. They let it ride for a while where we were sharing the revenue, and I was like, "This is awesome." And then one day they're like, "Actually, now we're just taking all of it." I'm like, "Okay," because I
Wow.
exist at their mercy. I exist at their mercy. They could say, "And oh, and for, and for further measure, we're blocking your video." I mean, they could do that at any moment, literally, as the publisher. And so, like, yeah, so I am making Dan Fogelberg a lot of money from the Philippines these days. Not a lot, but like that was a bad day. Let's just put it that way. When I lost the Dan Fogelberg, revenue, I was like, oh,
Does that mean it's retroactive as well?
no, no,
Okay.
no, 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 no. I don't have to pay anything back. I don't. No, it's just going forward. But it was just like I felt. Let's just say I felt that one. Like there's very few songs. Maybe Africa I'd feel, but there's very few songs that I would feel individually if I lost them as as a revenue sharing situation. But that one was like, ouch. But yeah, but like when I do a live stream, it's kind of funny because um, I'll get like. I'll either get like 25 emails or I'll get one. And if I get 25 emails, it means like all the songs are sharing the revenue with me and each other. It's like it's a big happy family. That whole stream gets shared equally, whatever. And then there's other streams. I'll do one song where like the publisher will be like, I'm taking everything from the stream. I don't care how many songs you played and what else you played. I'm taking it all, and they do, and they get to, and I'm just like, okay. So it's just like it's a little bit the Wild West. It's a little bit the Wild West. I mean, it just
But
still
but
is.
is that the danger of being you and becoming larger and more popular? That you're not flying under the radar anymore. That people are
Oh,
noticing you.
I mean, I think it kind of cuts both ways because somebody like Rick Beato, he's a guy that has a channel that does a lot of commentary about music. He's a
Yeah,
really
yeah.
talented musician himself, but like he runs into trouble where like, but because he has a big enough platform, he can make noise and like get it fixed, you know. And so like that was kind of like my dream was like when that Beatles video got blocked, I reached out, like I tweeted at the publisher, and I was just hoping I'm hoping that the fact that they see a little blue check mark by my name will like mean something. They'll be like, "Oh, we'll take this guy seriously." I was kind of hoping I had enough, pull or clout to like actually get, not have to worry about it as much. But that has not been the case yet. Maybe someday, like in 10 years, I could say, "Hi, this is Mike Massé. Can I cover your song?" And and they'll be like, "Oh, Mike Massé, by all means, please do." But like, I'm not quite there yet.
Um, we talked about relationship with your audience, and you mentioned Netherlands and how you seem to have a pretty loyal following there. Tell me about that connection you have with the Netherlands. And
Yeah. So did you watch the short film
I
about me?
did.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a short film on my YouTube channel called "Gonna Take Some Time" where I talk about what happened, but that was made about 5 years ago. Um, Basically, I have a large following in the Netherlands as kind of an offshoot of the fact that when my youngest son was 11 months old, he was diagnosed with a very rare and aggressive brain tumor, and he wasn't supposed to make it. And so uh, at the suggestion of my music distributor at the time, I posted a video, and it was a fundraiser. It was "Let It Be" by the Beatles, and my my cover of Africa had just gone viral on a viral video website called Dumpert, based in the Netherlands. And so I already like had this big like like a month earlier had gotten all these new fans in the Netherlands. But then this happened like a month later, and Dumpert took my "Let It Be" video and put it on Dumpert, and it was a plea because at the time, and we were looking at a lot of financial challenges based on his diagnosis, and we didn't know, a lot of uncertainty, and we didn't know what was going to get covered, what wasn't going to get covered. And so we were just basically saying, hey, if you can help, we'd appreciate it. My wife had to quit her job and everything, and so yeah, we just put it out as a plea, and it got picked up, and the Netherlands responded in a huge way. They My cover of "Let It Be" went to #1 in the Netherlands, which was amazing and unexpected. Somebody told me about it. I didn't even know. Like, hey, your song's #1. I'm like, what? And it was getting played on the radio and such. And so so the first chance I got, after Noah had his cancer battle, and he pulled through, and he's doing really well. He's 11 now. It was literally like 10 years ago right now that was all
Wow.
happening. Yeah, and his birthday was just last week, and that was the 10-year anniversary of, because I posted the "Let It Be" video on his first birthday, so that was the 10-year anniversary of that happening. So, but he's doing great, and happy kid, loves to sing. He's got a great little voice. He's taking piano lessons. So I think he's always going to have music in his life, whether or not he does anything professionally. I think he's going to have fun with it. And yeah, and he loves his big brother Timmy, who's 15, and Timmy's my engineer on my live streams. He's been a trooper. He's been there for every single one, except a couple times where we like went to a movie with friends or something. But for the most part, he's been there almost every time. And like with some of those premieres, you can't, Dad. It's like it's the new Spider-Man, Dad. I have to go. I'm like, okay, I understand. Okay,
That's your
fine.
bad
Yeah,
planning.
yeah, I know, exactly. Yeah. So, but yeah, since he was 13, he's been doing my live streams, and that's been fun for him to it's been a musical education for him to hear all those songs, and now he recognizes songs that he never knew before. And sometimes it's fun for him because there's so many songs that where he hasn't even heard the original version yet. He's only heard my version, and then he hears the original. He's like, you got that from that? Like he's just like, what? He's like, it's always kind of impressed in a way. It's kind of fun.
But that's amazing when you think about that kind of connection that you have with the people from the Netherlands. And you said
Yeah,
you've played there.
yeah. I've gone as many times as I can. I've gone probably 5 or 6 times. And it's
Wow.
always, they always ask, how's Noah? And I'm like, he's doing great. And I did a thing where I showed a little, one of the times I went back, I didn't perform "Let It Be" because that's kind of hard for me to do, like emotionally, that's just kind of tough for me to get through. And so instead I just played the recording of my version of "Let It Be" and a slideshow on the screen above the stage, just showing pictures of Noah, that like him growing up since then, and just, kind of my way of saying thanks, and giving them an update, you know. So,
What an amazing thing to
yeah,
go through. I mean, it must have been
yeah,
heart wrenching and so difficult, but to see it turn out so well.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
curious as to whether or not Apple Music ask for any money?
So
Sorry,
basically, the
I meant like basically let it be the owners of that
yeah,
publishing.
yeah. When we any sale, basically the first whatever 10 or 11 cents would always go to the publisher, and my record company, my distributor, they usually take a cut of everything I sell, and they didn't take a cut of that song, but anything that was sold through like iTunes or whatever, Apple Music, yeah, it had the usual 30% going to Apple, yeah, just like everything else.
Do you have goals?
Yes, I want to do an orchestral show of all Radiohead music with me singing Radiohead songs, and I want to tour the world and perform it with orchestras across the world, and just bring the scores. That's what I want. That's a goal of mine, and I want to do that in the next 5 or 10 years. I think that would be amazing. All I need is the scores, and to get them to generate the scores, I either need a financial investor who's willing to put up the money and then just be an investor in the whole project, or an arranger who's willing to do it for free and then take a cut down the road. And so that's a goal of mine. And I've already reached out to I've talked to one guy about it who's Nashville. I think he's no, he's not Nashville. He's in Iowa. But anyway, he's mulling it over. He's an arranger who thinks he could pull it off. He's a Radiohead fan. So yeah, so that's something I want to do. I want to play.
Can I ask
Yeah,
why Radiohead?
because I would do a really good job with it.
Good reason.
No, it's just I mean that's the less subjective way to voice it, but I think let's just say that Radiohead is definitely in my wheelhouse vocally, and it would and also I think the fan base for Radiohead is of the age that they would really enjoy seeing an orchestra perform this music, because Radiohead, to my knowledge, has never done that. They've always toured as Radiohead, and so like to have a band playing the Radiohead songs with an orchestra and me singing it, me contributing the piano parts probably, and the Tom York played, and also the acoustic guitar parts that he played. So basically me playing Tom York with everyone else just filling in everything. It'd just be great. And also I have a Beatles band here locally in Denver called Rubber Souls, and we've done a show with an orchestra, but it's the Denver Pops Orchestra, which is like a volunteer orchestra. What my goal is, I want to upgrade that next time to or sometime down the road to the Colorado Symphony, and I want to do it with my Beatles band, and I want to do it with the Colorado Symphony, and I want to do it at Red Rocks. I think that would be awesome. Do a Beatles show with an orchestra at Red Rocks.
Did you always dream big?
Um, yeah, when I was a kid, I used to, I'd play along to and wish that I was Dennis DeYoung, play along to Styx, and just kind of think that would be a cool job. So yeah, I never thought that anyone would necessarily want to pay to see me sing or play, but I thought it would be a cool job to have, for sure.
I love the story you told on a podcast about meeting Dennis DeYoung. Can you share that? Because I thought
Yeah,
that was pretty cool.
yeah, that was funny. So I met him on his birthday, which was kind of cool. He was playing in Boulder, and I live, half hour or 45 minutes from there in Denver area, and so I've just got backstage because we have a mutual friend basically, because he's from Chicago, and I'd done some shows with a singer named Kevin Chalfant, who had done a Journey like thing on a cruise that I was on with the guys from Boston. And anyway, so Kevin, I texted Kevin. I'm like, hey, any chance you can get me backstage for Dennis Young? I know it was kind of like I was like literally at the concert, like asking this. He's like, hey, just talk to the sound guy. His name is blah blah blah. Just tell him you know me, and I'll get you. He'll get you. He'll get you. He'll hook you up. I'm like, okay, cool. So I did that. All worked out perfectly. I get backstage and I'm just like meeting my hero, Dennis DeYoung, because I told him this, and this is a true story. I told him when I was a kid, I used to wish that I would get some sort of fatal disease so I could make a wish, and my wish would be to meet you.
And there
Yeah,
you were.
yeah. So yeah, luckily none of that was required. I didn't have to get sick at all. But yeah, and so he didn't really have a response to that. He was like, okay, that's great. Um,
Gotta go now.
Yeah, it reminded me of the time where I'm posing at a gig, and I'm posing with Terry Bradshaw, who was the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers forever, and I've got my arm wrapped around him. I'm like, "Hi, I grew up rooting for the Dallas Cowboys," and he was just like, he just didn't know what to say to that, and I'm like, he missed an opportunity to say that must have been hard for you. That's what I would have said. But anyway, so yeah, so I said that to Dennis Young, and then and I'm talking to him, and I said, yeah, I actually did a cover of Come Sail Away, and our mutual friend Kevin sent that to you. And I pulled it up on my phone, and I'm showing him the video on my phone of me singing "Come Sail Away," and then he starts singing along with my phone, and he's holding my phone, and so I'm just like very surreal, right? He's like singing along with me. Oh, I'm holding my phone, and then he looks up to me and he says, and he points at the phone. He goes, "I used to sound like that." I'm like, "Holy crap!" I'm like, "No, man, I'm like, you still sound great." No, no, yeah, I'll tell the other part. Yeah, the other part. So while this is happening, his guitarist walks in, and his guitarist was a guy named August Zadra, who had just killed it. He does the Tommy Shaw stuff. He's like a young blonde guy and great guitar player, great singer. And he walks by while I'm talking to Dennis Young, kind of like while I'm trying to introduce myself and explain who I am. And August walks by and his eyes get huge, and he points at me and he goes, "You're Mike Massé." he's like, he literally says, he's like, "Sorry to go all fanboy on you, but you're Mike Massé." Like he's like he couldn't believe he was meeting me, and I was just like, and he had just killed it all night. It was just like it was such a surreal moment, and the fact that that happened right in front of Dennis DeYoung, I was just like, that was some cool like street cred there that I couldn't have earned any other way. I'm just like, your guitar player is like fanboying over me, so like, it was pretty cool.
Well,
It was great.
one thing I do notice is how much musicians love YouTube and how they look at a lot of different performances. And it doesn't
Yeah, yeah,
surprise
yeah.
me that you get the accolades that you have gotten from some of the I mean,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
me, watching Africa, your performance of it, and if anybody hasn't seen it, they should. I mean, I can see why Toto and David Page would say this is a great version. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
and I don't know, I can't imagine it getting any better than that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, might as well tell that story too, real fast. But when I met David Page, he's the singer of Toto that wrote Africa, and he
Hmm.
sings he sings on the verses. And I went backstage and as a guest of Steve Lukather because he'd heard my cover too and liked it. And David Page, I didn't even know he knew who I was. He walked up and he shakes my hand. He's like, "Hi, Mike, so good to meet you." And he says, "Thank you for covering our song." And then he said, "You sing it better than we do." And then he said, "Anytime I have anybody over to my house, I show them your cover." And I was just like, I didn't even know he knew I existed. I'm just like, I was like trying to process all this. I'm like, holy crap. And then, yeah, and then he gave me a shout out on Facebook the next day, like, "Littleton, you were great. It was great meeting Mike Massé." That was awesome. Yeah. So like for someone to say thank you for covering their song, that had never happened. That was a first. I was like, wow. Just that was just a thing. That was a thing that happened. It was so cool. And it's happened since then with other people, but that was the first. I was like, whoa, that's just so cool.
Well, I think that speaks to your credibility and what a good job you do with other people's music.
Yeah.
So
I appreciate that.
good for doing that, and keep doing what you're doing because it's
Yeah.
amazing to me, and it's fascinating to me because I just think you took a different path to where you are, and it sounds like you're the type of person who will achieve this orchestral Radiohead concert one day.
I really hope so.
When
I really hope so.
that happens, I want to talk to you again.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah. Thanks for having the interest and thanks for reaching out. I appreciate it.